So you're thinking about moving to Claycomo, maybe Pleasant Valley, Missouri, maybe Glenaire, Missouri? Well, good news in this video, we're gonna be talking about all three. They're pretty close together, so might as well just include them all in this video. And if you stick around to the end, we're gonna take a tour through some different neighborhoods at kind of different price points out in these areas, so you can see what you might be able to afford on your budget. We're gonna get started right now. Hey, if this is your first time tuning into the channel and you want to know everything there is to know about living in Kansas City and the surrounding areas, places like Claycomo, Pleasant Valley, Glenaire, Missouri, then click subscribe, hit that little bell for notifications so you can be the first to know of the current market right here in the KC metro area. My name is Zach Morton. My business partner Max Jones, the Mojo Real Estate team, and I have been helping people move to Kansas City for over 20 years. We get calls, texts, emails from people just like you every single day, and we absolutely love it. But you don't have to take our words for it. See what our clients have to say with over 600 5-star Google reviews from folks just like you. So whether you're moving in 9 days or 90 days, you can just pick up that phone, give us a call, shoot us a text, drop us an email, even schedule a Zoom call. All of that contact information is in the description below. So we can chat with you about your goals and then help you with that seamless transition into your new neighborhood. But today we are in Claycomo. So I'm parked in Claycomo right now. What I have noticed about Claycomo, I've been kind of always known this, there's definitely no main street in this town, but there is kind of a highway running through it, and it is pretty loud, and I've got, there's really no great place to walk. There's no sidewalks going up and down the kind of the business where all the shops are. So right out of the gate, I can say that. We're also very small, so Claycomo, Pleasant Valley, and Glenaire, they're both on the Missouri side. Just on the northeast side of Kansas City, kind of central, kind of north, central, east, kind of right in all the action. They're pretty small, so let's start with the biggest one actually, Pleasant Valley, which has 2,700 residents and is 1.25 square miles. So pretty small still. And then we've got Claycomo, Missouri, which is 1,300 residents and 2.6 square miles. And then Glenaire, which is 550 residents and 0.27 square miles. So you can see these are all kind of small. They all pretty much touch each other. So that's why I thought it was pretty beneficial just to jump in and do these all three together. Most people aren't seeking these areas out, but a lot of people end up landing in it and like it for different reasons. So we're gonna touch on all that because I do get these questions from time to time. So it's a great opportunity to start answering them. Most notably, Claycomo. So Claycomo, there is a word that I learned when I was doing research for Claycomo, which is portmanteau, which is a word that you use to describe when you combine two words together, if I'm even saying that right. Portmanteau. So like breakfast and lunch is brunch. So Claycomo is in Clay County and it's in Missouri. So Claycomo is where the name Claycomo came from. Aren't you glad you learned that? Now you can go to sleep tonight. Anyway, most notable in Claycomo is you have Ford Motor Company owns the assembly plant, and as far as vehicles produced or coming off that line every day, it's the largest assembly plant or largest motor vehicle plant in the United States. It's 4.7 million square feet. Got a bunch of footage I took with the drone while we're over there, so we'll put some of that up so you can kind of see, but it's absolutely massive. It employs over 7,250 people, hourly workers that are part of the UAW union, which also has a shop right across the street, or a brick and mortar right across the street. So just a massive complex. It pretty much takes up almost half the size of Claycomo, which isn't that big anyway. But just a, kind of the heartbeat of Claycomo. If you live in Kansas City, or you've lived here for any amount of time, you're gonna know a Ford employee or somebody that works at the plant. It's that big and is that big of an impact. I think it's been here since 1951, so a lot of history around that. Right now, they currently make the Ford F-150, if you've ever seen one of those, and the Transit van. I've got a friend that works there as well, just like everybody else. And I believe all their Transit vans were bought by, I know last year were bought by Amazon, just bought everything they could get their hands on. I don't know who's buying them now and what's going on, but anyway, if you are a auto worker or have anything to do with Ford, you may be transplanting into this area. And that's just something to know about Claycomo. Pleasant Valley, there's a lot of little businesses going on there, nothing quite as major in Glenaire. It's just kind of a sleepy little neighborhood town. So I did just want to touch on that right out of the gate because that's what has Claycomo on the map. All right, so let's talk like entertainment. What are you gonna do if you decide to live here anyway? Well, it's fairly close. You're probably 10 or 15 minutes from Kansas City's downtown or city center. So you are actually in a pretty good location. It's got great highway access. In fact, that's probably, I don't know if the plant came first or the highway, but one of the reasons they put that there is it's so close to the highway. So you can get in and out of Claycomo onto 435 on one side. You got 35 highway on the other side, which is a major traffic or a major highway system. So it's got really great highway access. Next, I want to touch on entertainment because there's not a lot going on in Claycomo, in Pleasant Valley, especially in Glenaire. It's very small. It's more like a neighborhood, really. Not a lot of crazy stuff. You do have, restaurants. There's like Alberto's. There's a Mexican restaurant. There's a Ma and Pa's, which is got a ton of reviews when I looked them up. They're just kind of a local breakfast, kind of gravy, sandwiches, burgers, all that kind of stuff, kind of that greasy spoon kind of stuff. So they have a lot of high reviews. We've got a Chinese restaurant. There is Big Burger, Sonic, a Waffle House for a couple chains. So there is kind of that stuff real close. And then as soon as you get outside of these really small areas, there's everything. We're really close to like North Oak and Antioch and a couple super busy thoroughfares that are just chock full of all kinds of chains and restaurants and fast food and shopping centers and all that. So it's older. It's all stuff that was built 30, 40, 50 years ago, but it all still exists. So it's just kind of the older part of town, but there's still lots of options for all kinds of that stuff nearby. Now, as far as entertainment, other things to do, there is a social club that is, they've got a small 3-hole golf course across the street. In fact, when I was like 18, I played on that and shot a hole-in-one, my first and only ever hole-in-one, if you count that on a par 3 course. So that's pretty, it used to be called Timber Ridge. I can't remember what it's called now, but it's changed hands and ownership. They've got a putt-putt, and it's just a social club now, and then you can go out there and play a few rounds of golf on a 3-hole golf course. There's Penguin Park, which is kind of an iconic park north of the river. They have these giant animals. It's been there since I was a kid. I remember going down the slide. They've updated this, thank goodness, because that slide, I would swear like teenagers would go up. It's a big penguin, and you go inside of it. It's like the size of I don't know, it's like 2 stories, 3 stories tall, and it's big enough to get inside of it. And that's where the slide was. But back then, I think like it always smelled like pee, so I don't know if like kids would go, like teenagers would go in there at night and pee in it, and then you go in there as a 6-year-old kid. Anyway, they fixed that all. You can't go in there. There's no place to pee on the slide. But they've got turf, they've got kangaroos, a bunch of big animals, and of course the icon is the penguin. And around that, some lakes and walking trails. So it's a really nice park. It's not too far away from here. So, and then you've got, I guess we do have Worlds of Fun and Oceans of Fun. They aren't necessarily Claycomo, Pleasant Valley, but you can see the water tower from here. So it's just literally down the street. Worlds of Fun is a theme park, kind of like, depending on where you're from, like Six Flags, not quite Disneyland or Disney World, but definitely has 3 big roller coasters. At one time, it had like the biggest wooden roller coaster in the States. So it's notable. It's a good theme park. People travel here. I grew up with it, so I never really thought much of it, but there's people come from all over the country and camp out. There's campgrounds around it because they'll stay there for the week. And it also has Oceans of Fun, which is a water theme park. Same thing, monster water slides, water rides, lazy rivers, all that stuff. And those are connected. You can actually get a pass to do both and go back and forth. So if you're coming into town to look at some real estate and you got kids, I definitely recommend hitting that while you're here. Kids love it. It's a good spot. I will say, as when I was a kid, I wasn't the most fortunate kid, so we got to go to there once a year. But then as we got older, they started doing season passes. So it is a great spot. If you're here and you've got kids that are like teenagers, young teenagers, you can get them a pass to that in the summer for, I don't know, it's less than $100, and they can just lap it every day if you want. So that was always fun for me as a kid, and something that I'd probably just take for granted, but I know a lot of people are like, oh, that's cool, and literally just down the street, that theme park. So that's probably most of your fun stuff to do that's real close, you know, other than just going to a park and taking a walk. You know, there's restaurants and pubs, there's all that kind of stuff right up and down here, but nothing 5-star, nothing super fancy, or that just mom and pop stuff. So I think they're done chainsawing up there, and so let's go take a walk around a little bit. Like I said, there's not a lot of great walkability. There is a library behind me too for something else to do, but let's just take a little stroll and get out and get some of this good old Kansas City sunshine. So let's talk education a little bit. So this is the North Kansas City School District, and you know, this is a huge school district that all three of these areas lie in. It is 4 high schools, there is 4 middle schools, 2 6th grade schools, 22 elementary schools, 3 alternatives, and there is a early education, childhood development school that is also really great. So I will say, because I know different people that have kids with special needs or whatever, that this school district does have a lot to offer in that regards. But as far as what we're talking about, you know, with Claycomo, Pleasant Valley, and Glenaire, they're not all in the highest rated schools. So now, although North Kansas City does have some really highly rated high schools, Winnetonka is probably the lowest, actually is the lowest rated high school out of the whole system, and that's what falls in this area right here, and Pleasant Valley. So just something to know that, I mean, and it's not the end of the world. We're still like E-. Greatschools.org had it like 4 or 5 out of 10, and then Niche.com had it as B-. So there's that to take into consideration if high schools are important for you, and the middle schools are kind of following along that. Now, when you get down to the elementary schools, for some reason, like every place that I research and look up and pull stats, elementary schools are always rated pretty high, and that's the case here as well. So if you just have little kids, you're just looking for a stepping stone, a place to get used to the city, probably one of the best things about this place is the affordability and how far your money goes as far as real estate here. It might be a great option, but we definitely have a lot of resources for that if you want to research the schools a little more. But something that you need to know is, even though this is North Kansas City School District, it's not the most ideal high school, and maybe the middle schools could be questionable too. You know, still not, you know, they're still got B's in front of them, but not the highest ratings. When you go to Glenaire, however, this gets us closer to Liberty. This is actually, all these areas are kind of wedged in some really sweet spots, really close to Kansas, to some of the better subdivisions or suburbs of Kansas City. So that's kind of what makes this a sweet spot too, is you got great prices, but literally, like, check out our vlog on Liberty. Liberty's got A+ schools. It's one of the newer kind of suburbs in the Northland, so lots of new stuff up, or lots of new construction. It's been there for a while, but a lot of new construction's been going on there lately. So that touches Glenaire. It's actually kind of right in the middle of that, and then it's just down the road from Claycomo where I'm standing now. So you can be, you know, still close to that stuff. You just might not be in have the same amenities, you just not have that same school district. So we do have a map video that will be following this too, where we kind of explain that a little better so you can see it or visualize it better than just me talking. But I did definitely want to touch on the schools. That's probably one of the more negative things that we hear about, and why people are trying to avoid either Claycomo, or they want to avoid Pleasant Valley just because they're trying to get into a different high school district. All right, how about some grocery stores nearby? Well, you're going to have Hy-Vee, you're going to have Sunfresh, you're going to have a Walmart. Those are kind of your big ones. They're just outside of town, just a little bit, not too far away. So those are going to be your closest. A couple of those are going to have organic options. If you want Sprouts, which is more geared towards the natural whole foods, that's going to be in Liberty, which is just down 35 Highway, maybe 5 minutes or so. So you're going to have access to that as well. And then there's even a European corner store, which I've never been in. I looked up the reviews on that. It's like a little European ski chalet, and they've got European goods in there. So I might have to check that out actually, and tantalize my taste buds with some European cuisine. But that's kind of cool, just down the street on the corner as well. Median income in this area is $46,000 a year. And then the rent to own ratio is, we've got 47% rent, 53% own. And usually, you know, when you see it lean towards ownership, that's a little bit better. But I will say some of those numbers, why they're a little bit higher, is there is a trailer park that's near the plant that I know has some rentals in there. And then I don't think you can see it from here, but there is a lot of apartment buildings in Claycomo. Not so much Pleasant Valley, definitely not Glenaire, but Claycomo does have a lot of rentals. There'll be 4plexes, 8plexes, 30plexes. So there is a lot of rentals, but it's not necessarily single family where they're back in the neighborhood and every other house you're gonna have to be worried about a whole street being a rental. I guess that could always be an issue, but for here I think most of that is in those multifamily dwelling units. Oh, here's a sidewalk, I found one. All right, how about some sales tax and e-tax stuff? Well, no e-tax, another good reason to maybe have a Claycomo, a Pleasant Valley, or a Glenaire address, as you aren't subject to that 1% earnings tax that Kansas City hits Missouri residents for. Now, if you work there, you may be subject to it, so take that with a grain of salt. But if you are working from home or you do most of your business in the city outside of Kansas City, Missouri, then you won't be subject to that. Now, Glenaire on sales tax is not that there's any shops or anything you're going to be buying there, but it's 5.125% sales tax, but that will come in handy when you go to buy a new car or something and you have to pay your sales tax. So in Kansas City, Missouri, when you buy a vehicle, you have to pay sales tax. I know not all you guys, any West Coasters, Florida, you guys don't have the sales tax. Oregon, no sales tax, but here you will, and you pay it in the city that you live in. So if you happen to live in Glenaire and you buy your car for whatever, you're only paying sales tax of 5.125%. The rest of us in the rest of the real world are paying closer to, well, you still got Claycomo, they're just coming in under 9, and then Pleasant Valley's coming in just under 9 as well. So that's pretty much par. There's areas that are 10%, down south, Overland Park, places like that, but for the most part, that's right in the ballpark. All right, Zach, it all makes sense. How's the crime out here? Well, I'll tell you what, the crime is pretty good. And I don't know if it's because I'm parked my car right there at the police station that's right in the main road, right in the middle of town. And there they go again. Always working out here, keeping this place looking nice. But yeah, the crime, I'll throw up a couple graphs. Claycomo has slightly higher crime. I can only imagine that probably has something to do with 7,200 workers that are running through town, parking their cars out there. Who knows what happens? You get that many people together on a daily basis in a really small area. I'm sure every once in a while there's some people are butting heads. But for the most part, it's still bouncing below Missouri and the U.S. national average for violent crime. And then Pleasant Valley's even below that, which totally expect. Glenaire didn't even really register, but we got 500 houses. It's a sleepy little town. So that's fully what I expected there. But yeah, we got the police station right here. We've got the community centers right behind me for Claycomo. And then they do have a fire department, which is really nice and just down the street as well. So well represented here in Claycomo for all those services. I forgot to add this about when we were talking about schools earlier, but I did want to say there are private school options from elementary school, even pre-K, all the way up through high school. Oak Hill Day School is nearby. In fact, that's where my kids went. I had a great experience there. There's also St. Pius. I have a lot of friends that attend that and love it. And then there's a couple Christian schools as well. So private school is always an option. There's even some great stuff Pembroke downtown. So no matter where you live in the Kansas City, it's such a small, tight area. You're always going to have private school options if the school district isn't a good fit, but you still want to be in the area. Now for the good stuff, what makes it, the cost of living, kind of the perks of Claycomo, Pleasant Valley, and that is the cost of living. And as you can see, we got a graph here. I've also got this image that shows you the cost of living for Kansas. It's like a map. You can see the lighter pink is kind of the better cost of living. Now most of that's Kansas City, but, and for various reasons, some of that's the e-tax, some of it's school districts. But for that very reason, some of that lighter pink stuff is going to be Glenaire, it is going to be Claycomo, and it is going to be Pleasant Valley. So the cost of living here, depending on compared to the U.S., or you're comparing it to Missouri stats, you're anywhere from like 93% for the total to 85%. of the national average or the Missouri average. So when you look at that, I mean, utilities, groceries, all that, you know, pretty similar with everybody else in Kansas City. But the housing is the big one. So that's where you're gonna get the biggest value, biggest bang for your buck, is what you're gonna save on the housing prices. And you can see, I think it'll throw some stats in there. It's like 50 or 60% of the national average or the Missouri average. But yeah, housing is amazing. And I've got some stats here that I'm gonna pull off right from our MLS. So these numbers are directly from the MLS. These are the property, average price, average sales price, all that good stuff for Claycomo, Pleasant Valley. Combined and Glenaire. I combined them all. I went back 12 months exactly to the day. So right now we have one active property in that price point. In fact, we're gonna go look at it because we only have one. And then I've added another one that we recently sold that we'll go take a look at as well. So that one's $265. So we have an active property at $265. That's the average price point right now. Sold prices out of all the ones that sold, we're talking about a total of 46 properties all in all. But out of just the ones that sold over the last 12 months, the median price point was $220,000. So as you can see, that's $100,000 less than most places in Kansas City. We're coming in at that $330,000 to $350,000 average price point when you take the city as a whole and shake it all up and look at that median price point. So that is where this area shines. It's the housing value, what you can get, bang for your buck. Some of the things you just might have to trade off to get that. What you usually see is school districts, because a lot of that tax money that comes from the housing goes to school districts, a big majority of it. So with the better schools, you just see higher prices, and that's just an ongoing theme that's every place I've ever lived. And Kansas City proves to be going down the same path. All right, well, I think we pretty much covered the good, the bad about this area, Claycomo. What the vibe that I get when I think of these areas is when I think of Pleasant Valley, I think of rolling hills, kind of countryside. That's now just a bunch of older homes they're squeezing. There's some really nice ones. There's some dilapidated ones. It's kind of hit or miss, street by street. I think of Claycomo, Ford plant, obviously. Massive Ford plant just down the street. That's what I think of. And then I think of, you know, big multifamily rentals here and there, a little highway going right down the middle with shopping on each side of that kind of stuff, just to cater towards the workers that are coming through 7,000 a day in and out of here. And then nice little quiet neighborhoods back off to each side of it. And then Glenaire, what I think about that actually, Glenaire used to be a lake. And back in like 1945 or 1950, the lake, the dam broke, water all gone. And I guess instead of fixing it, they're like, oh, let's just throw some houses back in. So that is just that's almost really a neighborhood, not a city, in my opinion. I'll probably make somebody mad by saying that. But just a nice, quiet little area where you can kind of do what you want because you don't have all the Kansas City rules. I mean, you can't shoot guns and hunt in your backyard kind of stuff. But it kind of has that feel. A lot of larger acred lots, or maybe a short acre, closer to an acre, just different sizes, weird shapes, detached garages, that kind of thing, and some older homes. So that's kind of it. But I tell you what, instead of me talking, why don't we go take a look at a couple of these houses, stroll around, drive down a couple streets so you can kind of see what it looks like, and go from there. All right, let's do it. All right, so here we are coming up on our first house. We are in Pleasant Valley for this one, and there's not a whole lot of active stuff on the market right now. We've actually only got, out of those 3 areas, just one property. So what I'm gonna take you to, this is one that actually we just sold last month. It was a personal Mojo team listing, and actually one of our flips. Every once in a while, Max and I, if we come across a good deal, we'll buy one, flip it, kind of improve the community. So this is exactly what happened here. So what we have with this property is we're right at about 800 square feet. It's a 3-bedroom, 1 bath. We completely remodeled it, so brand new everything, new kitchen, new appliances, all the good stuff, put a brand new roof on it. It's kind of cool. I mean, out here, like all these houses, it's not a cookie cutter subdivision. That's the case with Glenaire, that's the case with Pleasant Valley. And Claycomo, you'll see a little bit of that, but for the most part, this was right here in Pleasant Valley. It was a farm at one time, and then they just, as they started subdividing it, letting people do what they want. Some properties have almost an acre, some are smaller, some are not. So anyway, you get a pretty good mix, and I'll kind of pan around. You can see we've got all different kinds of floor plans. Pleasant Valley is kind of like hilly and rolling hills. It's very small, so there's only a few rolling hills, but it's kind of nice when you drive through it. That's what I think of as stop signs and rolling hills. But anyway, property right here, 800 square feet. It's sold right at, I think, just over 170. So for $170,000, you get a completely refurbished house. It's 3-bedroom, 1-bath. It does have a shed on the back, a nice big covered patio on the back. I think it turned out really nice. But $170,000, that's pretty good for the KC metro area north of the river here. I will say that's coming in right at about $214 a square foot. And I think that's about all I have to say about that one. Let's go check out the second house, shall we? Let's do it. All right, so here we are at house number 2. This one is on the market. We are in Claycomo, and I'm kind of staying away from this, and they have a dog in the backyard right now, and when I got close earlier, it started barking, and I don't want you to have to hear all that, so I will turn around. We are in a cul-de-sac, which is kind of cool, but it's this gray house right behind me. We'll throw some photos up so you can kind of get a better idea of what it looks like, but listed for $265. Right at 1,900 square feet for $265, so that's about $139 a square foot. Is what they have this listed at. 3 bedrooms, 3 baths. You got the finished basement. They've done some nice updates in there. You got the wood floors that look really nice, some solid tile or solid surface. So you got the ceramic tile floors in the basement. I always like that. A nice covered porch again with a beautiful backyard. So it's kind of private back there. What else do they've done some stuff in the kitchen too with the countertops and the backsplash. So a lot of nice updates. You get a lot of space. It's got the maintenance-free vinyl siding. We're right down here, kind of in the bottom of a gully in Claycomo, in this cul-de-sac where it's nice and quiet. I'll just give you a little pan around so you can kind of see it's a nice little spot. But that is, going up a little bit in price, still at $265. You go to almost anywhere else in the Northland and you're going to tack on another $100,000. Maybe $50,000 to $100,000 for a house like that. So it just goes to show you kind of how far your money can go right here in Claycomo, Pleasant Valley, or Glenaire, those types of areas. So anyway, as always, I hope you guys find these videos useful. I really appreciate you watching them, all the likes, subscriptions, reviews, thumbs ups, all that good stuff. But really it all comes down to you and your goals. So it's all about having that conversation with you so we can help you identify and find the perfect neighborhood for you and your family. So when you're ready, just reach out by any of those contact methods in the description below. Look forward to chatting with you, and just remember you have a friend in the business, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.